A voice that shaped the world of heavy metal music has now been silenced forever. Ozzy Osbourne, famously known as the Prince of Darkness, has passed away at the age of 76. The news shocked the entire world. But many are wondering what really happened in those final moments, and why so many fans are now raising questions about the official story. His stage performances, wild lifestyle, and rock star attitude made him one of the most unforgettable names in music history. But what many people didn't see were the heartbreaking struggles behind the scenes, and the private pain that he lived with in his final years. Today, we take a closer look at everything that happened in Ozzy's last chapter, including the things the news headlines didn't fully explain. Ozzy Osbourne wasn't just another rock singer. He was much more than that. He was a legend. A symbol of rebellion, raw emotion, and unfiltered truth. For decades, he stood on stage with an unmatched energy that brought millions of fans together. He broke the rules, challenged expectations, and changed music forever. As the frontman of Black Sabbath, Ozzy helped create an entirely new sound that would go on to define the heavy metal genre. His voice wasn't just music, it was a movement. But now that voice is gone, and fans everywhere are left grieving, confused, and searching for answers. People always saw Ozzy as the wild man who bit the head off a bat on stage, who screamed with power, who brought a certain madness to music. But in his final days, the truth was far more quiet and painful. His health had been declining for many years, and those closest to him had seen it all happen slowly. For the public, it may have felt like a sudden loss. But for his family, it had been a long, emotional journey toward the inevitable. It didn't just start recently. Ozzy had been facing serious health problems for quite a while. In 2003, Ozzy was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. But he didn't tell the world about it until 2020, almost 17 years later. When he finally made it public, he said it felt like a nightmare. It was hard for fans to see their hero suffer. Over time, his condition began to show. He had to cancel many of his tours, including the highly anticipated No More Tours 2. But behind those public announcements was a much deeper and sadder reality. Ozzy was in a lot of pain, both physically and emotionally. Things got worse in 2019 when he had a serious fall that caused a spinal injury. That injury led to nerve damage and constant pain, and it affected his ability to walk. He was often in and out of hospitals and needed around-the-clock medical care. Sharon Osbourne, his wife, described those months as the hardest time in their entire marriage. She had been with him since 1982, and even after so many years, seeing him in that condition broke her heart. She said that sometimes he was so heavily medicated that she couldn't even recognize the man she loved. But through it all, she stayed by his side, sleeping in hospital rooms, making sure he had the best care, and protecting him from the outside world. What many people don't know is that in the last weeks of his life, Ozzy chose to keep things very private. He only wanted his family around. He didn't want to see producers, managers, or even some of his old bandmates. It was his way of saying goodbye in peace. His children, Jack, Kelly, and Amy, were there almost every day. They spent long hours at his side, playing music, telling stories, and holding his hand through the pain. One insider revealed that Ozzy had asked for the song Changes, a classic ballad by Black Sabbath, to be played softly on repeat. That song is all about pain, acceptance, and letting go. It felt like he was preparing himself for the end. Just a few days before he died, Ozzy reportedly turned to Sharon and told her something very simple but deeply meaningful: "I'm not afraid anymore." Coming from someone who had spent most of his life facing battles with addiction, illness, and fame, those words carried a lot of weight. It showed that he had finally found some peace inside. But even with that peaceful message, not everyone believes the full story has been told. Fans have started asking what really happened in those last 24 hours. The news broke early in the morning. Ozzy Osbourne had died peacefully at the age of 76. The family released a short but emotional statement. It said that he had passed away surrounded by his loved ones and that he had fought bravely until the very end. They also asked the public to give them privacy as they grieved. The moment the news hit the internet, it spread like wildfire. Major media outlets around the world started covering the story. Social media exploded. The hashtag #RIPOzzy shot straight to the top of trending lists on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Fans began posting their favorite memories, sharing photos, and writing heartfelt messages. But even with all that love and mourning, something felt strange. Some fans were surprised because just a few weeks earlier, Ozzy had given an interview where he said he still wanted to record at least one more song. He had said, "If I can sit, if I can sing, I'll give it one last go." That made people believe he still had some time left. It didn't seem like death was right around the corner. And that's when fans began to feel like something didn't quite add up. Some started pointing out small details. Sharon had been unusually quiet on social media. Jack and Kelly had cancelled public appearances just days before the announcement. It made people wonder, were they preparing for something behind the scenes? Then there was the part in the obituary that said Ozzy died at home. That seemed surprising because people knew he had been staying in a private medical facility. He needed constant care. So why was he suddenly at home in his final hours? Some believe Ozzy made that choice himself. They think he wanted to leave this world in his own bed, in the house he shared with Sharon, listening to his favorite music, and surrounded by family. Others think there might be more to the story, that there were decisions made behind closed doors that the public will never fully understand. But regardless of what really happened in those final moments, one thing became clear to everyone: Ozzy's death was more than just the end of a rock career. It was the end of an era. Across the world, fans began gathering to honor him. In places like London, New York, and Los Angeles, people held candlelight vigils. Outside his childhood home in Aston, Birmingham, people left flowers, letters, and photos. One fan wrote, "You taught us to scream, to rebel, and to live free. Now you rest, but your voice will never die." Famous rock musicians, including James Hetfield, Corey Taylor, and even Gene Simmons, shared emotional tributes. But the one that touched the most hearts came from Tony Iommi, his longtime friend and Black Sabbath bandmate. He said, "We started this journey together as kids, and now I'm left without my brother. I'll carry your voice with me for the rest of my life." Still, even with all the public mourning, the story wasn't over. Behind closed doors, something else was happening, something that would cause more questions. Shortly after his death, attention turned to Ozzy's will. According to sources close to the family, Ozzy had changed his will about a year before he died. That surprised a lot of people. Why would he make big changes so late in life? Ozzy's fortune was worth around $220 million, and most people assumed it would be split fairly among his family. Sharon, his wife of more than 40 years, was still expected to receive a big part. But rumors began to spread that some family members might be getting smaller portions than they thought. In particular, there were whispers about Amy Osbourne, Ozzy's oldest daughter. Unlike her siblings, she had chosen to stay out of the public eye. She didn't appear on the family's reality TV show, The Osbournes, and she didn't live her life in the spotlight. Some reports suggested that her decision to stay away from the public side of the family may have influenced how the will was written. This raised questions. Was the family completely united in the end? Or were there hidden tensions that fans never saw? No one knows for sure. The details of the will haven't been made public. But the rumors alone were enough to spark online debates. Some fans felt sad that even in death, the Prince of Darkness couldn't rest in total peace. Others believed that Ozzy's decisions were his own, and should be respected, no matter how unexpected. On top of that, there were even more rumors, talk of secret letters Ozzy may have written before he died, personal recordings he left behind, and even unreleased music that he never got the chance to share. Some insiders hinted that Ozzy had been working on new material from his hospital bed, dictating lyrics, and asking his team to save everything. If true, that would mean his voice might return to the world one more time, even after death. But nothing has been confirmed yet. As the world continues to mourn Ozzy Osbourne, one thing is certain: he changed music forever. He gave a voice to those who felt like outsiders, rebels, or misfits. He spoke the truth, lived without fear, and created a legacy that will never be forgotten. Even though his life was filled with darkness, chaos, and pain, there was always something deeply human and honest about him. He showed that even in madness, there can be beauty. Even in pain, there can be strength. And even in death, a voice can live on forever. The Prince of Darkness may be gone, but his music, his story, and his soul will echo through time. Fans will keep singing his songs, telling his stories, and passing on his spirit to future generations. Because legends like Ozzy Osbourne don't really die. They just become part of the sound that never fades. Some sources say Amy was left out of parts of the inheritance, not because of anger or hate, but because she and Ozzy had grown apart in recent years. Others believe it wasn't a personal decision but a practical one. Ozzy always wanted to protect Amy's privacy. He didn't want her to get caught up in legal fights over the estate. But that was just the beginning. There are rumors about handwritten letters Ozzy left behind. These letters were personal goodbye notes written to each of his children and to Sharon. They weren't legal papers. They were full of emotions, filled with memories, regrets, and words only his family would see. Or maybe not. Someone close to the family hinted that Ozzy's final words might be shared with the public someday, perhaps in a documentary or book. But others argue that would go against Ozzy's dying wish for privacy. There's also talk of music Ozzy recorded in the last 2 years while he was sick. These songs are said to be locked away in a safe vault. Sharon once mentioned in an interview that Ozzy had recorded songs for a time when he would no longer be around. Is this music part of his legacy or will it become another legal fight? Some distant relatives, including old friends and cousins he hadn't spoken to in years, are already planning to take legal action. They say Ozzy promised them something for their past work with him. It's not clear if these claims will stand in court, but one thing is clear: Ozzy's death has ended his suffering but started a wave of family drama. Through all this, Sharon has mostly stayed quiet. She gave a short statement saying, "Ozzy was the love of my life. I'm focused on honoring him the way he deserves, with peace, truth, and dignity." But people wonder, will that peace last? Ozzy Osbourne wasn't just a singer in Black Sabbath. He was something much more. He was wild, unforgettable, and full of contradictions. He could shock the world one minute and then move you to tears the next. He was born in Aston, Birmingham, in a working-class family, and somehow became the godfather of heavy metal. His life was far from ordinary. It was full of pain, surprises, and unbelievable moments. But no matter what happened, he stayed true to who he was. That's what made him special. Ozzy wasn't perfect. He struggled with addiction. He had mental health problems. He did strange and sometimes upsetting things. Like the time in 1982 when he bit the head off a bat on stage. It wasn't fake. It really happened. Some people were horrified. But his fans loved him even more. That's just who he was: wild, honest, and one of a kind. What many people don't realize is how deep he was emotionally. Behind all the chaos was a man with a thoughtful and poetic heart. His lyrics weren't just about darkness or demons. They were about pain, war, loneliness, love, and trying to find the truth in a broken world. Songs like War Pigs, Mama, I'm Coming Home, and Diary of a Madman connected with people who felt alone or misunderstood. Even more incredible was Ozzy's comeback. After he was fired from Black Sabbath in 1979, many people thought his career was over. But he didn't give up. He released Blizzard of Oz, which saved his career and changed metal music forever. Songs like Crazy Train and Mr. Crowley showed that even the darkest moments can turn into powerful art. That album sold over 5 million copies in the US alone. And from there, his fame only grew. No matter how music changed over the years, Ozzy stayed important. He didn't just follow trends, he created them. In the 2000s, the world got to see a new side of him. Through the reality TV show The Osbournes, Ozzy became a clumsy but lovable dad who cursed a lot and made people laugh. A whole new generation fell in love with him. And his collaborations with stars like Post Malone, Tony Iommi, Zakk Wylde, and Elton John showed that his talent crossed every musical boundary. Young or old, if you loved music, you respected Ozzy. But maybe his biggest impact wasn't his music. It was the way he made people feel. He never hid his struggles. He admitted when he messed up. He fought hard to get clean. He sometimes relapsed, but he kept trying. He talked about having Parkinson's, about feeling depressed, and about how scary it was to lose control. He showed people that even legends can feel weak. That honesty gave others strength to fight their own battles. That's why fans around the world are lighting candles, playing his music non-stop, painting murals, and writing messages like "You saved my life." Ozzy wasn't a perfect man, but he was real. And in today's world, that's rare. Even after death, his presence is felt everywhere. Radio stations are playing his music all day. Cities from London to Los Angeles are celebrating him. Streaming platforms are seeing record numbers for his songs. But there's another part of Ozzy's life that people don't talk about much: his fear of death. He might have looked fearless on stage, with his loud voice, dark clothes, and wild behavior. But inside, he was scared. He talked about death often. He said he had nightmares and panic attacks and was always afraid he wouldn't wake up. In one interview, he said he didn't know what came after death. He wasn't scared of pain. He was scared of not knowing what comes next. That fear stayed with him his whole life. In his younger years, it made him reckless. He tried to drown that fear with drugs, alcohol, and crazy living. But as he got older and stopped using, that fear changed. It didn't go away. It became deeper. Ozzy didn't trust organized religion, but he did believe in something beyond this world. He read the Bible. He meditated. Sharon said he often sat alone for hours, just thinking. Especially after he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, he started reflecting a lot. Some people believe he thought he was being punished for his past, for the things he did while using drugs, for the people he hurt, and for not being there enough for his kids. His daughter Kelly once said she was afraid she'd lose him before really getting to know him. But in his final years, something changed. He looked for peace. He met with spiritual guides, not priests, but healers and chaplains. People close to him say he wasn't looking for forgiveness. He just wanted peace. Peace with his legacy, with his family, and with himself. His son Jack told a friend that in those last few months, his father became calm. The fear was gone. He didn't talk about what he'd miss anymore. He talked about what he'd given. His music, his honesty, his love. He started focusing on the good he left behind. In one of his final interviews, someone asked how he wanted to be remembered. He said, "As someone who didn't fake it. Someone who gave you everything he had, even when he had nothing left." That might be the most honest way to describe him. He didn't die with fame or wealth on his mind. He died tired, worn, full of love, and finally at peace. He might have been called the Prince of Darkness, but in the end, he was a man looking for light. Maybe he found it. Ozzy Osbourne, the man who scared parents, inspired young musicians, broke rules, and created something powerful out of chaos, is no longer here. But his energy remains strong. We watched him rise from a small town to world fame. We saw his pain, his struggles, his family issues, and his search for answers. He gave us songs that changed lives. He gave us moments we'll never forget. He never said he was perfect. And maybe that's why we loved him. His death might be the end of one part of music history, but it's not the end of his story. His voice will still be heard in stadiums, in headphones, on records, and online. His story will be told again and again. Not just as a warning, but as a symbol of strength and honesty. He reminded us to be ourselves, no matter what people say. He reminded us to keep fighting, even when things get dark. He lived like a warrior. He died a legend. And he will be remembered as a father, a husband, a survivor, and the true heart of heavy metal. Now it's your turn. What memory do you have of Ozzy Osbourne? Did his music help you through something hard? Is there a song that means more to you now that he's gone? Share your story. Let's create a space where his fans can come together, celebrate his life, and remember all the ways he changed the world. If this story moved you, share it. Let others know what Ozzy meant to people. He showed us that even the darkest times can lead to something beautiful. And maybe, somewhere inside all of us, there's a little bit of Ozzy's wild spirit too.